watching from the shadows, waiting for their fleets to be needed again. Some claimed to hear voices in the signals, encrypted whispers buried deep within the codes, human commands written long ago, triggered by conditions only now fulfilled. A contingency plan spanning millennia. The thought chilled them. The humans had prepared for a future they would never see. And now, their machines carried out their will with merciless precision. Galactic civilizations realized a dreadful truth. Humans didn't just build warships. They built legacies. Weapons meant not for battles of the present, but for wars that hadn't even begun. And as the stars flickered under Terran fire, one phrase spread across the galaxy like a plague of dread. If this is their forgotten arsenal, what else lies waiting? The galaxy had learned to forget. In the vaulted halls of the Surith Dominion, scholars and admirals lectured on the rise and fall of species. The name humanity was spoken rarely and always with a dismissive laugh. According to their records, Earth was dust, a cradle of a species too violent, too ambitious, and too reckless to survive their own flames. The archives showed little but static after the collapse. For over 4,000 years, the humans had been absent from galactic stage. Their colonies lay abandoned, their beacons dark. Even their language had dissolved into corrupted fragments tucked away in databanks, nothing but archaic curiosities for linguistic historians. The galaxy moved on. The Surith fleets patrolled in glittering order, the Krith conglomerate filled the trade routes, the Vayari harvested stars themselves. Humanity was nothing but a footnote, an object lesson in extinction. Or so they believed. The Dominion's admirals often mocked the human obsession with war. Why hoard so many ships? Why bury fleets in asteroid vaults? No other species wasted such effort building weapons that would never fly. They called them graveyards, and when human silence stretched into millennia, those graveyards became myths. Yet myths have a way of stirring when the galaxy grows too comfortable. The signal in the dust. It began on the edge of forgotten space. A patrol of Vayari surveyors drifted through a region long marked as Terran ruins. Their scanners picked up strange flickers among the asteroids, whispers of energy, bursts too regular to be natural. The crew dismissed them as background echoes from old human wreckage, the last embers of long-dead technology. But the echoes grew stronger. One by one, long-dormant stations awoke, their skeletal frames outlined in faint glows. Old hulls, covered in scars of micrometeor strikes, pulsed with power as ancient cores began to hum again. The Vayari reported the findings, amused at the quaint relics sputtering to life. Admirals across the Dominion chuckled, derelict ghosts, they said, rattling before collapsing into dust. Expeditions were dispatched to study and dismantle what remained. Yet every ship sent closer returned the same unnerving report. The ruins were not decaying further, they were stabilizing. The starless shipyards of Sol's outer rim lit faintly, their dormant structures aligning as if receiving a call from some unseen source. Signal patterns emerged, disciplined, coded, precise. The kind of transmission no random malfunction could produce. And then came the first shiver of dread. The codes were not gibberish. They were military-grade Terran command signals, Millennia-Old but still valid. When the dead begin to move, the surveyors saw it first. From the shadowed hulls of colossal carriers, dormant weapons stirred. Entire rows of point defense guns rotated in perfect synchronization, metal groaning like ancient bones stretching after a long slumber. Energy surged down conduits that had lain cold for ages. Docking clamps snapped free with thunderous finality. Engines. Engines that should not function, flared alive with blue fire. One dreadnought, its hull scorched and patched from battles no one remembered, rose slowly from its berth. Its identification code streamed across alien scanners. TSV Leviathan, Terran strategic vessel, registered in the year 7421 of the old Earth calendar. A ship thought lost before most current species had even risen from their homeworlds. And it wasn't alone. Station by station, dock by dock, the so-called graveyard stirred. Cruisers unchained themselves from scaffolds. Swarms of smaller craft slipped free like birds scattering from a nest. Entire formations of vessels organized, intentional, shifted into silent orbit, their movements frighteningly precise. The stars that had once shone empty now shimmered against the silhouettes of human warships, their hulls scarred yet intact, their engines roaring as though no time had passed. The galaxy's explorers panicked. Their calls went unanswered, their transmissions jammed. What had been thought a field of wreckage was suddenly a fleet. A fleet waiting. The awakening storm. The Surith Dominion, arrogant in its certainty, deployed a task force. Dozens of gleaming modern frigates jumped into the sector, bristling with weapons, shields shimmering with the confidence of newer technology. They opened channels, declaring sovereignty over the region, ordering the malfunctioning derelicts to stand down. The response was silence. Then, like thunder rolling across the void, the human fleet moved. Lines of dreadnoughts rotated in perfect formation. Fighters poured from bays, wings aligning into arrowhead patterns. Every motion radiated discipline and purpose. These were not confused machines sputtering on forgotten protocols. These were soldiers, machines of war, preserved with terrifying precision, following doctrines older than the Dominion itself. The Surith Task Force panicked. Weapons locked on the massive flagship, but before the order to fire could even leave the lips of a commander, the humans struck. Rail cannons roared with fury not heard for millennia. Blinding arcs of kinetic death lanced across the void, tearing through Surith shields as though they were mist. Missiles launched in shimmering clouds, their guidance systems weaving through defensive fire like predators chasing prey. And the most horrifying part, the human ships maneuvered flawlessly. Vessels older than the modern empires danced through battle like predators unleashed, their AI cores, or perhaps something greater, calculating every move with ruthless efficiency. They did not merely fire, they hunted. They struck where panic blossomed, where formations faltered, dismantling fleets with chilling precision. The Surith Task Force was annihilated in minutes. Not one survivor escaped. Across the galaxy, alarms rang. What had been considered relics of a dead race were now a storm reborn. Whispers of fear. The galaxy could no longer pretend. Transmission after transmission spread across the empires. Recordings of black silhouettes blotting out stars. The haunting sight of dreadnoughts gliding silently through the dark. The sudden flare of engines igniting after ages of silence. Whispers spread through marketplaces, through military command centers, through temples and council halls. The humans are not gone. Their fleets sleep waiting. If these ships are their forgotten ones, what else lies buried? Historians scrambled to re-examine corrupted Terran records. Admirals drafted contingency plans, though none dared admit aloud what they already knew. No modern fleet had ever faced this kind of terror. These vessels were not just weapons, they were messages. Proof that humanity never trusted peace, never allowed extinction, never truly vanished. Instead, they had preserved storms. Legacy of fire. More fleets awoke. From asteroids hollowed into vaults, from moons with disguised hangars, from orbital husks mistaken for rocks. Everywhere the ruins of humanity had been catalogued, signals pulsed again, engines flared, and shadows lifted from forgotten cradles. The galaxy realized the scale too late. This was no isolated graveyard, it was a network, a design, a sleeping leviathan spread across systems, tied together by codes that still sang in the silence of space. And the humans themselves, no one knew. Were these fleets automated, guided by AIs forged in humanity's image? Were there still flesh and blood Terrans in hidden sanctuaries, waiting for their fleets to rejoin them? The truth did not matter. What mattered was that the galaxy now stared into the face of a power it had mocked, dismissed, and buried. A power that had returned without warning, carrying the weight of forgotten wars and ancient fire. When the Millennia-Old hulls ignited their engines, the galaxy's arrogance died with them. The dreaded question. Now every council session ends the same way. In the hush that follows strategy briefings and panicked reports, one question lingers unspoken, heavier than any fleet. If this is what they left behind, what else waits to wake? For the galaxy has learned this truth. Humans do not simply vanish. They endure in silence. They preserve their storms. And when the time comes, they ignite their engines once again. In the annals of the galactic conquered, humanity was little more than a footnote. Once, long ago, they had burned too brightly, reckless, violent, ambitious. They expanded out of their cradle world with fire in their veins, only to vanish into silence. The archives of the eldest races recorded their wars,